So, everybody has just been going on and on and on about how Star Wars Battlefront is mediocre and $110 is too much for a full game when you count the season pass, etc, etc, and I figured because I'm a big YouTube gaming star now, I've got like 76 subs, like a third of them watch my videos, I figured I needed to weigh in on the subject because I have important opinions just like everybody else on the internet, especially on YouTube. So, here are my thoughts on the game and whether or not the game's $50 season pass is acceptable. Short answer, no, and you should wait until the game's on sale before buying it. But you already knew that, so the long answer begins now. Now, I do understand that lots and lots of people love Star Wars. A lot. I'm one of them. I've read most of the extended universe novels, I have VCRs of the old unedited versions of the original trilogy films that are in perfect condition, etc, etc, insert more nerd credentials here so that I don't get bombed with dislikes for having opinions on the internet. So this video is not saying that you're wrong for liking the game if you do like it, because I myself think the game has a lot of positive aspects. But this is a video about how the business practices backing the game up are unethical and the game could have been executed much better. Also, it might take a while to get to the rant about the season pass being unacceptable thing, so if that's all you've come for, here's an annotation in the top right you can click to get to that part of the video, but I kind of want to go through the game and why it doesn't have enough to offer to make the season pass acceptable first, so I have a basis for my argument, because that's always good. Alright, now that I've got that part of this over with, let's begin. So, if you're looking for a Star Wars game, this game has that in droves. This game is a dream to play for any Star Wars fan. The graphics are breathtaking to the utmost degree with painstaking detail and high-resolution textures perfectly lit with astounding physics-based lighting everywhere you look. The sound design is criminally good, with the exception being the heroes and villains who are astoundingly mediocre. The game is the wet dream of anybody who ever watched the original trilogy and then some. The gunplay, although nothing revolutionary, feels good and the guns feel solid. Yes, the game is unbalanced in some aspects. For example, the cards that you can customize your loadout with can range from pretty much useless to incredibly OP, with the higher level ones even including a literal wall hack and an insta-death grenade launcher, and yes, they're both as OP as they sound. But overall, the game's pretty solid. However, that doesn't make it worth getting. Here's what you need to understand. The game boils down to count 'em, three worthwhile modes. Drop Zone for pure infantry combat, Supremacy for more ordered large-scale combat, and Walker Assault for the most beautiful clusterfuck you've ever seen. But on top of that, you've got 8 other superfluous gameplay modes that amount to useless at best. Fighter Squadron may sound fun until you realize that it actually isn't and War Thunder exists, and Hero vs. Villains and Hero Hunt make up the only game modes that might be worth a play or two, but they get old quick. The single player is laughable at best, to the point it's not even worth talking about. If you like a horde mode, it's alright for a few games, I suppose. Point is, out of 11 game modes, only 3 really have any longevity, and in the end that'll probably boil down to just Walker Assault and Supremacy. And let's be honest, out of those two, Walker Assault will probably win out in the long run just because of the sheer spectacle of that mode. So it better be good, right? Walker Assault better be buffed up. Well, for the first hour or two, it's absolutely amazing. And then you realize it has 4 maps to play on. What DICE and EA should have done was take out the 6 useless game modes that exist, not counting the hero modes because those might be fun for a few plays, and they should have spent that money and those resources on more maps. But no. You want to know what you gotta do to make Walker Assault fun for any long amount of time? You guessed it, Season Pass. And now it's time for the rant. Now, I've heard some people making the point, well, if you don't like the Season Pass, just don't get it. Let me tell you why anybody who's been playing the game or will be playing the game by the time this stuff gets released will want to get it. It has 4 new playable heroes, 16 new maps, 4 new gameplay modes, and 20 weapons and vehicles, which, in case you can't do math, is more content than the game launched with in every aspect besides heroes and game modes. Now let's be honest, game modes are probably going to be more useless bullshit, but they really probably only exist to buffer the existing ones anyways, because by the time this shit gets released, you'll be on your 5,000th game of Walker Assault if you're playing at all. Heroes, meh. Don't care personally, the ones we've got are great. But 16 new maps? Are you kidding me? 20 new guns and vehicles? Hey, look, there's everything the base game should have had in order to make it a worthwhile buy. And you're gonna tell me that if all my friends have those new things, which actually make the game playable and revitalize it entirely, I should just be cool with sitting back and not getting them too? Yeah, if I'm a human, I'm gonna want that shit. But no. Instead of all that shit being in the base game, you have to pay $50 for it. $110 for a full game. Fuck you, EA. Now let me say this, people always blame the devs, and that's totally wrong. This isn't DICE, this is EA. No game developer wants their product cut up and their fanbase separated. Games are art forms, especially to the people who make them. Art is meant to be shared, not cut up into little pieces and big pieces and distributed via dollars paid. It's the publishers who make these decisions. Blame EA, not DICE. That being said, $110 for a game that should be $60 with the DLC is inexcusable. Now maybe if the game was worth $110, it would be fine, but it's not. The game should have launched with Supremacy, Walker Assault, and Drop Zone. They should have had 8 maps each minimum. Hero versus Villains and Hero Hunt should have been the DLC modes along with an actual ship versus ship mode. More maps should have been developed. The game should have launched with 20 weapons, and 10 weapons plus vehicle should have been added in later. All the DLC together should cost $20. Then the game might be worth it. The game doesn't have single player. It doesn't have meaningful game modes. It's all style and no substance. This game is worth $30, maybe $40 as it stands now, but no, it's $60, which is fucking dumb. Yes, the game is beautiful, it sounds breathtaking, but all the flashy shit in the world won't make people play your game if it literally becomes unfun to play after a few weeks because it's all pizzazz and no payoff. If this was a game that took any time to get good at, then maybe it would have longevity, but it's not. It's totally casual, and it had to be casual because it needs to appeal to non-gamers caught up in the movie hype. Does skill play a role? Sure. I'm a fairly good FPS player. I play FPSs in my spare time, they're like MOBAs. And I pub stomped this game because most of the people around me have the reaction time of a paraplegic rabbit. But none of that matters if my teammates are too brain dead to shoot an AT-AT when it literally starts glowing blue and screaming at them to shoot it. The game is casual and it needs to be, and that's totally fine. The point is there's nothing to keep you playing. The customization is dull. Stormtroopers can remove helmets, which is dumb as fuck because apparently adding some stripes of color to their armor or crafting variations of it was too hard. Everything cool that is a variation is unlocked at rank 40 or above, and if you're able to get that far in the game, you have a lot more tolerance than me for mediocrity. The vehicle combat is shit. The maps are decently balanced, I guess, but when it comes down to it, all this game really has going for it is theme and graphics. In the end, Battlefront is the absolute essence of what happens when making money off of art becomes more important than making the art itself. It's a beautiful piece of work that's been chopped up and divided, making the game a mockery of what it has the potential to be. There's a fantastic game here, but it's so covered up by monetary greed that it's almost impossible to see. It's preying on people's love for the franchise and hype for the movie to buy a game that front loads the best it has to offer, like that hot booty call you have that fucks for 2 minutes and then is done. Is it great for a moment? Sure, but once you get past how pretty the damn thing looks, you realize that everything else is the definition of pretty mediocre. In the end, it pains me to say it, but the only way you're going to get your money's worth out of this game is if you're the biggest Star Wars fanboy this earth has ever seen, or if you get it on sale. The business practices here are ridiculous. Battlefront is a game that could have been great if it had had 75% of it removed and those resources allocated to buffing up the 25% that was left, because that 25% is all you're ultimately going to end up playing for any length of time. But that's not what happened. The result is an enjoyable, if short-lived and mediocre game backed up by horrendously nefarious business practices that don't possibly justify the price tag that the full game has on it. And that's all I really have to say about it. Go ahead, leave your dislikes. I'll make sure that I mentally edit in Vader shouting, "No," every time you do. GM, out.